Good morning, Gardenia. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Adam versus the Man. We got a big blocked out show stacked up for you today. A lot of economic news. I thought we were going to talk about the virus, which shall not be getting us censored on YouTube today. Yeah, right. Without further ado, producer Jim, give us the notes.
Good morning. What's going on out there? It's an exciting week. Everybody is converging towards Gardenia. Not everybody, obviously, but a good amount of people. So that's gonna be fun. Yeah, everybody. Join us. Public Telegram channel is t.me/Adam versus the Man. You can get all the show notes for everything we go through. If we miss any of the articles today and we give brief mention to them, but you want to hear more about it, you can find every link to every article we cover on the show right there at t.me/Adam versus the Man. Free to join. Everyone's welcome. So do that. Our co-host today, Off Grid Ed, he's going to have a contest for us, and whoever wins that contest can win access to the Private Producers Club. That's our Telegram channel with the that you have to be a better patron member or win one of the contests to have access to. So if you don't want to worry about winning a contest, you think Ed's contest is going to be too difficult for you, you can just go to adamversustheman.com. You can click on the Patreon link there, and $10 a month is the sweet spot that'll make you a better patron. That'll get you access to the Producers Club. And once you're a member of the Producers Club, you can shop at the shop at adamversustheman.com, and all better patrons and Producers Club members that got in through the contest will get 15% off and free shipping for everything in the store with the Adam vs. Man show logo or the Freedom logo, shirts, hats, hip sacks, or fanny packs, or fanny packing packs, whatever we're calling them now. After that, go to Cigar Federation.
If you use your fanny pack for concealed carry, you are fanny packing. Just saying.
You are fanny packing. That's the way it is. So after that, adamversustheman.com, the best website on the planet, has a link for the Cigar Federation. It's a great website where you can get a large selection of exotically flavored cigars, including Adam's favorite, the JSK Nug, which is a CBD-infused cigar. You can use promo code Adam10 while you're at that website to get 10% off of your entire order there. So it's a great deal. Check them out at cigarfederation.com. Check out Instagram at the Garden of Freedom. Check out everything that's got Adam's got going up there in Gardenia through pictures and videos. I'm looking at that every day. I keep going, still he hasn't added those yet. What the hell's
going on? It's been a week. I'm terrible.
But eventually, like I said,
you remind me.
Yeah, right on. Eventually there's gonna be an upload extravaganza. So keep that in your
the kittens are just starting to open their eyes now.
Oh, nice. That's cool. It's so cool exciting when they're so small like that. They're tiny. It seems like it goes by so quick though, too, don't it? It's like with regular kids, you know, they're born and they're so tiny. It's like, oh my God, they're so tiny and fragile. You wake up like a week later and they're already climbing on fucking everything. It's funny. TheCrypto6.com. Visit it, get to know it, help those guys. They got raided. Their Bitcoin church got raided. You can donate to help them with different cryptocurrencies, as you see on the page there. So visit that and check that out, thecrypto6.com. And lastly, gogreenenergyonline.com. It's a great website with all kinds of resources for self-sustained living. Get yourself off grid, learn more about solar power, learn more about micro wind power, zero energy homes. It's a great website with great resources and great information, run by a great guy, Mr. Nygaard. Visit gogreenenergyonline.com. He likes to promote it as the best help for do-it-yourselfers. If you want to get your solar power, get your micro wind power up, and you want to do it yourself, this website can help you do everything you need to get it done yourself and save yourself money in the short and the long run. gogreenenergyonline.com. Thank you very much.
All right, let's get co-host Ed Vallejo up on screen and see what he's up to.
Good morning, God Emperor.
Good morning, my fellow God Emperor.
starting to rain over here in Winslow.
We got some serious rain last night too. It's supposed to be raining again today. It's kind of nice. Good timing actually, but it is cold.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a good time to be working inside.
What went up for you moved over, and now it's going up for me.
Well, hopefully we'll get the flooring in on the cabin today. Major upgrade. Getting there. One day at a time. But we had a lot of fun yesterday doing the silicone seal and painting the interior black. And it's just, man, building a house. It's a project. It takes a while.
Gardenia was so earthy when I was there. Everywhere I went, it was just so earthy and so real. And now you got this posh thing set up there.
It's not earthy. Yeah, it used to be earthy, but now it's Martian. I know. I wonder about that, Ed, because like I had the opportunity to build plenty of living space here over the last 5 years, and instead I half built a lot of living space, and it's like, no, I wonder if I'd rather just I want to be like Peter Pan, you know, like I Robinson Crusoe, whatever. Like I never want to grow up. You know, I don't. Why? Like why? Oh yeah, I want to have kids someday. Yeah, better not to have kids in a tire cave.
I bet the big dome still isn't covered, is it?
No, of course not.
I knew it.
No. All right. So, what's your comment contest this morning, Ed?
You know, everybody is so dark and gloomy and dank and it's just we need to liven it up. We are very jovial here at Adam versus the Man. We try and get a lot out of life. So whoever can get the biggest laugh out of Adam with their comment today will get their membership.
All right, we'll take a lot of breaks to check in with that in case I miss any during the headline. Well, I wonder if there's a lot of it's because there's a lot of COVID in the air. We have a story. Oh, did I say? Oh, I meant viral shedding from the vaccine for the virus, which shall not be named, which apparently in and of itself is a debunked myth. Debunked, yeah. It's we're gonna save this for tomorrow. We got a cool COVID block lined up. But Ed, before we get to that, but the thing is, and I've mentioned this a couple times, but I didn't even see this coming, and I don't want to like fearmonger on the vaccine any more than we've been at all. Like disingenuous fearmongering is bad with whatever it is. But that if you were healthy, you might have even been exposed to the virus like I think I was, and kind of like beaten it off, and haven't been don't take that the wrong way, so insignificant that maybe I can handle it. It's not a big deal. I think that's true for 80% of people exposed who are asymptomatic, right? But now there's a new hazard of viral shedding from people who have gotten the vaccine, that they may be, and I don't want people to be like, oh well, no, you got to be afraid of people who've been gotten the vaccine. It's like I wouldn't go that far with it. But if someone got the vaccine and they're sick after getting the second shot and they're having symptoms, it's because there's an activity in their body that they are putting out of their body.
Yeah.
And you go, well, you think this is something really to be concerned with?
I'm hearing reports of women that they didn't take the shot, they didn't do anything, but they're around women that did get the vaccine, and their menstruation, their periods are varying and doing wild things. I think it has to do with the viral shedding of the women that do get the vaccination. They're affecting women.
Some hypothetical connection with the blood clot seems like it might explain this. But I will say this about the vaccine, the exact same thing I said about the virus, is that we as humanity are not living up to our potential in dealing with this. And a big part of it is because of how government interferes with sharing information. Like we should, like the treatment, understanding who's vulnerable, best policies, like should have been understood within months, and that there was this prolonged confusion. Like, no, that was engineered, and it's the same thing with the vaccines. And at this point, I mean, I guess they just want to keep people confused, you know. And it's I know this is like major like sidebar way out there, but I just read a big article about like a 20-page story about the CIA's operations in Guatemala and Arbenz and Armis and the overthrow with the fake radio station that led to the fake insurgency that led to real destabilization, and it was there was a point where it was just blame the enemy for what you're doing, and then when they blame you, blame a third party, and then make it so confusing that eventually people cognitively give up on placing blame. And I don't know if that's really the case here, because it's not such a clear like blame issue. There's a lot of blame to go around, but a deliberate confusion to get people to give up and just kind of like, fuck it, I'm going with the flow.
Yeah, they push you and push you and push you and push you until you say, all right, to hell with it. Go ahead and do what you're going to do. I did the same thing, only I said, all right, to hell with it. You do what you're going to do, and I'm going to go off grid in the middle of nowhere somewhere, and I've been here for a year and a half. I'm happy.
So I just noticed that I left this hair tie on my wrist during for the show so far, because I had it in my hair last night, and it's like I got my two hippie buddies on screen today who are well familiar with the use of hair ties. This is like major leveling up for this. Is like, give me the ring of power. I can tie my hair behind my head. Okay. But Ed, there's one other, unless you have any dumb hair jokes to tell about hair ties.
What was that?
Unless you have any dumb jokes to tell about hair ties.
No. The reason my hair is short, it was down to here forever.
I remember.
It got caught in an automotive engine. I lost about a foot. Then it got caught in the squirrel cage of an air conditioner, and I lost some more. And the third time when he got caught, I said, I'm not going to let it kill me, and I cut it off just for safety purposes.
I'm just planning on keeping mine in a ponytail when it gets longer, but you have one in your beard right now. That's a hair tie, right?
Just to keep it out of the way, yeah.
You're not afraid of your beard? That seems like it's more likely to get caught in an engine. Like bending over it like that? No?
Nah.
All right, well, one story I wanted to get to with you before we jump into our big economics block was the U.S. Census. U.S. population rises to 331,449,281. I think they were off by at least 3, because I saw 2 people they didn't count, and there was one running away when they were counting. So I don't know how accurate this is. The Census Bureau says the population is now that number, the 74 or the 74%. That would be huge. No, the 7.4% increase over the last decade is the slowest ever. This is the once a decade redistricting, or the official, I should say, as the article says, the release marks the official beginning of the once a decade redistricting battles. The numbers released Monday, along with more detailed data expected later this year, will be used by state legislatures or independent commissions to redraw political maps to account for shifts in population. Ed, does this mean anything to you?
Yeah, it means the acceleration of the global depopulation program. Chemtrails was just too slow.
So just a slowing of the population growth to you suggests that eventually they're designing a hump that we're going to come down from.
Well, it was Gates that said, if we do vaccinations right, we can bring the increase in the population down considerably.
Well, there's no way. There's a lot of reading into the nefarious nature of that from various conspiracy theorists about where you can go with it, but I don't think there's any way around it that that's a kind of global eugenics, social planning, at least central planning, fantasizing, thinking on that level. And it stands to reason. This isn't something that we should think of as like abnormal. Like in the world we live in today, there are some crazy super rich people who are in a position to design the world if we let them.
Remember Tuskegee.
Yep. All right. So we're looking. Ed's going to be on the comments today. We're going to be looking for funniest. What was make me laugh? All right. Yeah, we'll see if Ed can make me laugh. Don't forget to feed the trolls because the trolls usually make me laugh. Washington Post. Go into our big economics block today. Follow the money. The Washington Post at MSN.com. The Fed helped fuel a stock market boom that benefited wealthy Americans and left behind everyone else. Hello, Ed and Adam. That's not funny, Moose Girl, but we're off to a good start. Ever since the COVID-19 pandemic struck, the Federal Reserve has gotten plenty of kudos for moves that have helped stabilize the economy, kept house prices from tanking, and supported the stock market. But those successes have obscured another effect, the inadvertent impact the Fed's ultra-low interest rates and bond buying sprees are having on economic inequality. Yeah, we did these things that we didn't really have to do that are questionable anyway, really bad when you look at them. And oh, whoops, we made the super rich richer and the rest of y'all poor. Whoops, we didn't mean to do that. Yeah, right. Okay. Stabilize the economy? No. Has the economy been stable? Absolutely not. Kept house prices from tanking. Well, they did briefly, or at least went down significantly. But the injection of liquidity into the market through the Fed inflates house prices, which are already overinflated, and actually consolidates ownership again into the people who just so happen to have access to that easy money. John Galt, Adam, on May 1st, Wall Street Silver is organizing a silver raid against the bankers. A silver squeeze is about to go into overdrive. Hashtag Wall Street Silver, hashtag Silver Squeeze. May 1st. I'm there. Hey, send me more about this. We'll cover it on the show. Email Adam at thefreedomline.com. Definitely something I want to get into. So, supported the stock market. Oh, it supported the stock market. Who controls the stock market? Oh, the super rich. Oh, so it supported them, and which is inherently at the expense of the rest of us. I mean, that they're trying. They're still. This is. I don't know why they think this propaganda still works. I mean, it does. To a certain extent, it does. Oh, the Fed. It's a good thing we have the Fed. Yes. But the propaganda is even worse from the Associated Press with our next headline. Even as economy heats up, Fed to stick with near zero rates. Yes. In other words, we're going to keep giving free money to our friends. Hiring is accelerating as Americans increasingly venture out to shop, eat at restaurants, and travel, and inflation pressures are even picking up after lying dormant for years. Yet this week, the Federal Reserve is all but sure to reiterate its commitment to ultra-low interest rates. At a news conference Wednesday after the Fed's latest policy meeting, Ed's chair Jerome Powell will likely underscore his view that the economy is far from fully recovered and needs the central bank's continued support in the form of low borrowing costs. There are still 8 million fewer jobs than there were before the pandemic struck, and the unemployment rate at 6%, though well below where it was a year ago, remains elevated. Yeah, and I mean, there's so I don't want to spend too much time just deconstructing all of this propaganda because it goes on and on and on, and it's basically the same thing. But you need us. The economy couldn't function without socialized money, without a central bank. And now, the economy's weak, so you need us even more. Mike Fireman at Adam Kokesh. I was writing an email and was using the word butt cheeks, but I couldn't figure out if it was one word or if I should spread them apart. What's that register on the scale, Ed? All right. Powell has stressed that further gains in the job market are needed to help the many Americans, especially low-income workers and people of color, who've been disproportionately hurt by the loss of jobs and incomes and have yet to benefit from the early stages of the recovery. Well, gee, why? Because what you do is give money to rich people with the excuse of helping poor people. There, that's it. That's what the Federal Reserve does. That's what central banks do. They give money to rich people using helping poor people as the excuse. Pretty much sums it up. MSN with this headline from Bloomberg: America's ultra rich fear Biden will close their favorite tax loopholes. No. You don't understand, Ben Steverman. If America's ultra rich were afraid that Biden would close their favorite tax loopholes, they wouldn't have let him get elected in the first place. So, who is the ultra rich? Is there going to be a squeeze? It's possible that we've got this like artificial spike in the fabric of the economy that creates not a pyramid, but like really an exponential spike in the nature of the concentration of wealth and power in the world. And so maybe that spike gets higher, the meat of that spike gets pushed down, and fewer are left alone at the top as the super rich. And there are a lot of people pushed out of the just super rich category there. That's possible. But fear close their favorite tax loopholes. Oh, don't worry. They'll get that money back in other ways. That's how being ultra rich works. And as Ben writes, the rich shouldn't be too afraid of Joe Biden's tax plans. It's the really rich who should be getting nervous. Oh, so it's not the rich, because if the fabric is just your average poor Americans, right, middle class, all of that fabric of America, or the world really, right, which slopes down the further away you get from the United States. But this spike, right, there's the rich, the super rich, the ultra rich, the super class, and it really is a product of the Federal Reserve centered fiat currency driven economy. The U.S. president is set to unveil a tax. Oh, wait, we got another. Oh, what was that? Someone trying to make me laugh? No. Anthony Ross said, I haven't slept for 10 days because that would be too long. No, not the same register. Valid attempt, Antho. Let's see. The tax package promises to raise revenues on those earning $400,000 or more a year, but executives and professionals making over $500,000 annually already pay relatively high taxes. But they're potentially targeting a much wealthier group, fortunes starting in the tens of millions of dollars, who pay lower tax rates than many middle class families. It's funny, say 400,000 is rich. If you earn $400,000 a year, you're rich. All right, fair enough. That's rich. I'd consider myself rich if I had $400,000, right? But then they go, but we're going after those that have tens of millions of dollars. Here's the thing: on that spike, $400,000 and $500,000, like down here, 10 million is still down here. You're getting into the spike. We were talking like if you're talking tens of millions as you're ultra rich, there are, remember, 3,228 billionaires in the world. If this 10 million, 100 million, a billion, and then there are the people who have multi-billions like that. There's several people in the world who have over $100 billion to their name, and there are people who pull strings with that size of power. It's on another level. And those people they're going, we have an excuse to steal from those people down there and push them down. All right. Mike Urico. Hey, Adam, are you aware YouTube auto-delete some comments? Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I think I've seen that in the past. I get censored whenever I link the Corbett report, mention social engineering, or even how tribes would pray before a hunt. Yeah, so that doesn't at all surprise me that they throw in the pray before a hunt thing is that's something to auto delete, because it triggers their algorithm and it throws you off the trail, right? It's like it gives them the excuse that, oh, our algorithm makes mistakes. I think there's a lot of diversion like that in the nature of modern online censorship. GMA, GoodMorningAmerica.com, Nevada sees lithium white gold rush as demand set to skyrocket. In the Nevada desert, there's a quiet frenzy building over a rare resource that will be crucial to meeting the country's goals to slow down climate change. Lithium, the crucial component in batteries for electric vehicles and renewable energy storages, mostly been produced in countries like Australia, Chile, and China. There's only one commercial lithium mine operating in the U.S., a facility in Silver Peak, Nevada, that has been using ponds to evaporate groundwater and harvest lithium since the 1960s. At least 2 more mines are waiting for final approval to begin construction, one of which will produce enough lithium for 400,000 electric vehicles a year for the next 50 years, according to the company. But demand is set to explode by as much as 1,000% by 2030, according to the Energy Information Administration. Now, who knows, playing that up. But the cool thing is to see one of our predictions, even from just a week ago, not like I should take credit for this, but that mining rare minerals is going to become of increased importance. Control of information, control of those larger technology fueling resources, things like that. But even there, the cost of all these things is eventually going to become negligible to the average consumer for all of your needs as a human being. That what are you going to be going? I think what you're going to see is like actual resources that are going to be fought over in like 10 to 20 years. I don't say fought over because I don't think that's well we're already seeing. Oh geez, have we ever seen wars based on access to natural resources before? So it increasingly, though, those natural resources are not going to be fossil fuels, but rather the minerals to build batteries, solar panels, whatever the next high-tech or alternative energy. It's not alternative, it's the next phase of sustainable, but not even sustainable, just more efficient, more effective energy sources. And so what's actually going to become rare is or sort of scarce, metals like lithium. A facility like this might be extremely valuable in the future, but even then, the marginal cost to the consumer is going to come down so low, competition is going to be so high that maybe you're going to see pockets of value or riches or development in things like lithium mining, in like our friend Fina's brother Frank doing underground gold mining, mechanized fully, in a company where they don't even let him smoke cannabis because he might crash the machine and not find the gold or something like that. But then the next thing is land, and if I had, it's the one scarce resource that we can't just really create more of. I mean, until and there's still tons, and I think there's going to be the land market is going to see some huge ups and downs over the next few decades, and I mean off the charts ups and downs, because at some point people are going to be able to live like I am off grid much easier. This is work right now. Like, this has been work to find land, like driving, off-roading, scouting, finding places that aren't marked, where there aren't any roads. Literally, the land I bought didn't connect to any existing roads when I bought it, so I built my road. And there is I had to put up a fence, and I had to go out by hand and do that. And I'm building a cabin, and I've built houses here and like different facilities by hand because I love it. I enjoy it. That's fun, healthy work for me. And who knows? Maybe people will find there will be a surge of physical productive hobbies like that. 1054 went for a drive in the mountains. Saw a sign that said "Falling Rocks," and I thought, no, it doesn't. Okay, all right. Yeah, falling does not rock. So Thanks, Dad. Where was I? I knew that was going to throw me off. But then that, like, even housing, you're going to be, and even today, you can just buy a vehicle, an RV, and slap a solar panel on it and a evaporative water generator, like we're there, and you could live self-sustaining in a unit like that kind of anywhere if you want to build and have lots of like space and fun stuff. There's still some work involved, but eventually it's going to be just kind of snap your fingers, 3D print. There's going to be a machine that does barbed wire fence, like it's if that's even a thing at that point, who knows? But land on Earth, so land is going to go. There's going to be a surge in demand with that. Then there are going to be periods of land opening up because this is going to make a lot more land habitable. But then perhaps as the population surges and more people want nice places, 40 acres, 160 acres. I'm happy with my 10 here, at least for now. But that is one resource that Earth land is one resource that is truly limited, and I think is going to be in demand for a long time. And then going down when we can all 3D print rocket ships in our backyards and go live on other planets. It's coming. It's coming. You will probably live to see it. The Washington Post at MSN.com, taking the economic competition into outer space. Jeff Bezos challenges NASA moon contract award to Elon Musk's SpaceX. And while it's worth pointing out that it's great to see private development in space exploration, it's awesome to see that it is flourishing, but it's still subject to a lot of government control and intervention. And in this case, it's about a government contract. Just over a week after it lost out on a high-profile and lucrative contract to build the next spacecraft that would land astronauts on the moon, Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin filed a protest over NASA's decision, saying it was flawed. NASA awarded Elon Musk SpaceX a $2.9 billion contract to build the lunar lander, a huge victory, that surprised many in the space industry. Blue Origin had vigorously pursued the contract, building what it called a national team, including Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Draper, to compete for it. And that's really saying something, because it means that Elon Musk beat out the military-industrial complex for a $2.9 billion government contract. It won the largest award in the initial round, was seen by many as the team to beat for what NASA calls the Human Landing System. The selection of SpaceX as the only contract recipient was a huge blow to Blue Origin and an embarrassment for Bezos, who was personally involved in the project and has talked openly about his lifelong fascination with the moon. Bezos, by the way, owns the Washington Post, the story this is coming from. Yeah. All right. Also from the Washington Post, the proliferation of space junk is blocking our view of the cosmos, research shows. Holy shit, we're at that level. Did I miss a comment? To go off for a while there. My mind is too abstract to make Adam laugh. Sorry, Mikey Rico. The rapidly growing cloud of satellites and space junk orbiting the Earth is beginning to block our view of the universe around us. According to new research, each individual object in orbit, from the tiniest bits of space garbage to the largest man-made satellites, reflects a commensurate amount of sunlight back toward the Earth. Multiplied by tens of millions, the collective amounts to a 10% increase in illumination across the night sky. That increased sky glow is washing out our view of the cosmos, making it harder for scientists to peer into the farthest reaches of our galaxy and the universe beyond. If the astronomers' calculations are correct, it means we've surpassed a sky brightness threshold for unimpeded astronomical observation set decades ago by the International Astronomical Union, an association of professional astronomers who, among other things, assign names to newly discovered celestial bodies. Do I have to point out how easy it is to blame government for making the night sky dimmer? Who's really responsible for all that space junk? How much has been in there? This is all about debris from NASA. According to NASA, the debris has a collective mass of about 6,000 tons. In addition to satellites, the European Space Agency estimates there are tens of thousands of large pieces of space debris orbiting the Earth, a number which swells into the millions when considering smaller objects down to a diameter of 1 millimeter. Thanks, government. This is why we can't have nice things. Don't worry, we'll clean it up. Elon Musk will probably figure out a way. Which brings us to our next story. CBS News, Elon Musk is offering $100 million in X Prize carbon removal contest. There's a total of $100 million up for grabs from Tesla CEO Elon Musk for anyone who can combat global warming by capturing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Yeah. We're just going to engineer our way out of it to the tune of $100 million. Now, I wish, like, this is awesome. I love this. I just wish Elon Musk would even get more creative and generous with his money, if not his time, which he's now using those Saturday Night Live. Yes, you'll see. This is still part of the Econ Block at CNBC. Elon Musk hosts Saturday Night Live on May 8th. Don't worry, we'll have probably a reminder and a review. I'm looking forward to this. All right, I'm looking at the co-host chat, and it's nothing about the show. But yes, Elon Musk will be hosting Saturday Night Live on May 8th. And what's actually the better part of the story is our second headline on it, but it's also from CNBC. Some members of the Saturday Night Live cast are confused and annoyed to have Elon Musk host show. Healthy disrespect for authority. No, the plants need the carbon dioxide. Yes, that's right. Let's remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and starve the plants. Good idea, Elon. No, there's more to it than that. But this plant food, yeah, Patrick Lewis pointed out that as well. Saturday Night Live's decision to pick Elon Musk as host has drawn backlash on social media from some of its cast members and writers. Interesting world we live in, isn't it? The billionaire taking us to outer space can be complained on social media by, including from some of its cast members and writers. At least 4 SNL cast members and writers have publicly criticized the decision. Musk, CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, has downplayed the risks of COVID-19, said he would not get the vaccine for it. Is that what it's about? Smackaholic went on Rogan's pod. Elon said that the people living on Mars would determine the future of Mars, and to make all the important decisions would be an interesting libertarian experiment. Yes, and there's going to be more of that. I mean, are you under the jurisdiction of the United States government if you launch a spaceship from here and you're just floating around the solar system or if you're in orbit? I mean, if you're just in orbit, can you create? Are you subject to their laws? It sounds like they don't really apply anyway. But let's see. Why are they panicked? Let's look at these quotes. Elon Musk says, to be clear, I do support vaccines in general and COVID vaccines specifically. The science is unequivocal. In very rare cases, there is an allergic reaction, but this is easily addressed with an EpiPen. But the cast members have said things like A.D. Bryant said in an Instagram story, Sanders criticized the sharp wealth inequality. Knowing that the 50 wealthiest people in this country own more wealth than some 165 million Americans, and he called that a moral obscenity. So for having for having this wealth and not sharing enough, and I agree. Like I think it's a fair thing to criticize him for, but I would still have him on my show. Like, hey, Elon, if you want to come on Adam versus the Man, I promise you, none of my staff will criticize you. Bloomberg, I'm just kidding. I don't. Oh, you're welcome on the show anytime, but I don't really care if anybody on our team criticizes you. They certainly have that freedom, but it wouldn't stop me from having you on the show. Going to be really interesting to see how this drama plays out leading up to the May 8th appearance. Now, we have a transition story to our drug war segment from Bloomberg. CEO of $2 billion startup ousted for taking LSD at work. But before we get into that story, let's check back in with Ed and the audience and get to your comments, shall we? Mr. Vallejo, did I miss any jokes? There were some good ones in there. Are you there? Your audio, I think your mic is muted. Are you muted?
Yes, I was muted because I was told that there was some sort of feedback from me and that I should mute when I'm not talking.
Good co-host. Good co-host. All right, what were you saying? What did I miss?
You didn't miss anything. You got pretty much all the humor that went through, except for one person's weak attempt, and then he got a little upset that when he said something about his comment, I put what he said about his comment up there, but not his comment. I'm having a good time back here. How are you?
Excellent. Well, let me get. Why don't you stick around for this next story, because this is one I think your wisdom might be relevant for, and the audience is going to like this.
Okay.
CEO of $2 billion startup ousted for taking LSD at work. Marketing startup Iterable Inc. dismissed its CEO over violations of company policy, Iterable said in a note to employees on Monday. Have you heard of this company, Iterable?
No, I haven't heard of that company, but it's funny you should mention it. I saw something this morning that said that California is going to go ahead and legalize LSD and psychedelics.
That's our next story, man. We're going to get to that. Came through Joey in the Producers Club, but back to this, because this is like let's do both of those, because this is the juxtaposition for our drug war block.
Okay.
The fired CEO Justin Zhu. Zhu said the board's chief reason for ousting him was that he took LSD, an illegal drug in the U.S., before a meeting in 2019. Zhu told Bloomberg he was experimenting by taking a limited amount of the drug or microdosing in an effort to boost his focus. In an email to staff, co-founder Andrew Boney said Zhu's dismissal was over unspecified violations excuse me, of Iterable's employee handbook, policies, and values. The board, what is it? They value obedience? I don't get it. What's the problem here? Doing this is like doing caffeine every morning. Some people mega dose on caffeine in their company, I'll bet. The board replaced Zhu with Boney as CEO. Maybe a power struggle here, using LSD as the excuse. A spokeswoman for the San Francisco-based company didn't immediately provide a comment. As Boney wrote in his note, Zhu's behavior also undermined the board's confidence in Justin's ability to lead the company going forward. Described him as a world-class innovator and creative thinker whose vision, creativity, and passion will remain a core part of our culture. What do you make of just that? Like, is that? I mean, like, there must have been something else to this, right? I hate to dismiss the sort of blame the drug war element of this story, but it sounds more like they're using that as an excuse. I mean, if the CEO of a company was kicking ass and taking names, and turns out he was taking some drugs, even LSD. Now, you're not going to get fired. You might get a reprimand and told not to do it, and which basically means don't get caught again. But it must have been that he was like tripping at a meeting, or just his overall performance was bad, or that he someone else, he crossed somebody and they wanted his job. Maybe that was it. Does that make sense to you, or do you really think that it's straightforward as, he just got fired for LSD?
No, I agree that there's some sort of ulterior motive in using this minor infraction as the reason for replacing the man.
Yeah. Well, there will always be something in these sort of business political power plays. The story goes on. Although the use of drugs like LSD remain controversial, they have gained acceptance in parts of Silicon Valley and in some medical circles. Steve Jobs, late co-founder of Apple Inc., told a biographer, taking LSD was a profound experience, one of the most important things in my life. MDMA, known as ecstasy, is currently at the FDA phase 3 stage of testing for use to treat PTSD. Iterable was founded in 2013 and has grown quickly, attracting customers such as DoorDash and Zillow Inc. Its investors include Index Ventures, Charles River Ventures and Viking Global Investors. It is valued at about $2 billion, but what does it do? I'm going to ask Google.
Don't know what it does.
Have you ever? What are your thoughts on LSD microdosing?
First of all, I don't see a problem with it. In the 20s and 30s, it was used by most psychotherapists for psychotherapy. I mean, Cary Grant used to go in 3 times a week and do LSD in his therapist's office and go through his previous life, and it helped him. I mean, it does help people if you do it under the proper circumstances. I mean, LSD, for those of you that don't know about it, it's a mood enhancer, okay? Whatever frame of mind you're in, it's going to blow that out of proportion. It's going to accentuate that. So if you're in a bad frame of mind when you take the LSD, you'll have a bad trip because it accentuates those negative or bad things. And if you're in a good frame of mind and you're looking forward to it, and then good things happen. Okay. My first LSD trip was half a dose, because I hadn't tried it before. I had a half a dose, and we floated down the Salt River in Arizona on inner tubes, and it was a wonderful experience. And afterwards, when I took a full dose, I was able to go off by myself and think deeper than I've ever been able to think before, and actually work out things in my mind that I hadn't been able to work out before. I've used LSD many times to do things. I mean, used it purposefully, not just for recreation, but used it purposefully. And that's what microdosing is basically. It's using it purposefully to do something that you're trying to accomplish. And
that's I've never heard it described as a mood enhancer, but that's a very good way of describing, I believe, from my half a dozen or so experiences with LSD, but also psilocybin, similar impact, but they're both more than that and in different ways. But the mood enhancer, it's like if you're having a shitty time, it might make it horrific. If you're having a good time, it's going to make it awesome. If you're meditating, it might make it super, super introspective and insightful. If you're being creative, it's going to enhance your creativity as well, obviously, by stimulating your mind to work in different ways. And, you know, there's another story. I was going to save this for Friday, but since we're on this is from scipost.org. Neuroscience study indicates that LSD frees brain activity from anatomical constraints. New research shows how LSD influences the dynamics of functional connectivity in the human brain. We finally accepted that it's safe enough to research, and we're doing the research. But what would you say are the sort of secondary characteristics or dynamics of LSD besides being a mood enhancer? Because there are other dynamics. It's not that straightforward.
All right. I don't know what other dynamics you're talking about.
Well, one is the vision that it causes visual hallucinations, and that creates a whole other level of just visual engagement and enjoyment. And a lot of people mistake. And I know different people have had like crazy trips and like seen things that weren't there. But in all of my trips, what I have seen as visual hallucinations never confused me about reality. It was never like, oh, I didn't see that hole and fell into it, you know. But that I saw like patterns on things, and like I've seen the moon with, you know, that sacred flower geometry all around it as it was illuminating the clouds, and it's like I knew that it wasn't real, but I was seeing something that was real to me, that was like a revelation of even a visual sacred geometry. And there's that, I think, but there's I mean, a general euphoria effect. I mean, it definitely pushes things towards having a good time, right? Like if you're having an okay time, you're probably going to end up having a good time. But to the story here, the psychedelic state induced by LSD appears to weaken the association between anatomical brain structure and functional connectivity, according to new research published in the journal Neuroimage. The study also provides evidence that LSD increases the complexity of segregated brain states. That needs a lot of untangling, right? But obviously, it's changing function in a way that is not like a threat to your health, and so now it can be studied in sort of, you know, with mainstream institutions.
I believe it's possible that the drug does accentuate abilities that we don't use every day, that, you know, can appear to us as patterns or something else recognizable that our brain is trying to work out in perceiving what we are actually seeing, hearing, tasting, feeling, you know.
So the author said, and this kind of explains the dense language that sounds kind of pessimistic in the beginning, actually. Excuse me. We know that brain structure has a large influence on brain function under normal conditions. Our research shows that under the effects of LSD, this relationship becomes weaker. That means function is less constrained by structure. This is largely the opposite of what happens during anesthesia. When you go to sleep, your brain falls into patterns based on functions, based on structure. LSD weakens the structure to put you not just in a woke state, but a hyper woke state, in the sense that you are less constrained. So it's the opposite of anesthesia. Anesthesia is being asleep, conscious is being awake. So this is the if there was super awake on the other side, the opposite of anesthesia, that's what LSD literally does. It literally makes you super woke. And this is true about psilocybin, I believe, in its core function. And as one of the authors added, studying psychoactive substances offers a unique opportunity for neuroscience. We can study their effect in terms of brain chemistry, but also the level of brain function and subjective experience. In particular, the mind is never static, and neither is the brain. We are increasingly discovering that when it comes to brain function and its evolution over time, the journey matters just as much as the destination. And that's the point of all of this, right?
I could see where LSD would aid in astral projection.
Yeah.
I've known people that were able to astrally project. I haven't been able to do it. I've tried it many times, but I've never tried to do it on LSD. And you know, LSD is like a mental high, where mushrooms is like a body high. That's the way my experience has been.
I've had both with both, but yeah, there is a differentiation and different, you know, in that dynamic. But there's something else about where we are with this right now in human history, where it's like, yeah, let's see what these things do, and it's very, very exciting. I wonder what do you think are the implications of this, like socially, historically, and maybe not this understanding, but as you know, at our next headline in the stack, California bill would decriminalize LSD and other psychedelics. That's it. We're like, and you're gonna show the graphic with this is great. Scroll down, Jim. It's Einstein in front of Einstein blotter paper with a smiley face blot on his tongue and swirly eyeglasses. I don't know what you call it, but Ed, you've let me appeal to your wisdom here. Where are we now? What's about to happen?
We're breaking free from the constraints that have been put on us for millennia. Okay, I'm working on a project to where I will get everyone to burn their King James Bible. Watch that one. Yeah, that's where we're going with this. I'm telling you, we're losing our constraints. Okay, we're breaking out of the box. Okay, I've been saying for years there is no box, people. They say you got to think outside the box. No, there is
What
no box.
The box is an illusion that other people put there to control you.
Exactly. Look, I was put on a control program from the moment I got here on this planet. And it worked up until just about my 30s when the alcohol part made the program crash. And when I quit drinking in 1983, I had to, as an adult, using strict honesty, rigorous honesty, it was called, to go over and take all these little bits of my life that I've come in contact with her and look at each one of them and figure, is this truth or is this some bullshit that some person in authority stuck into me for their own purposes? Yeah. And I had to go through all of this stuff, and I had to restructure my own life's foundation on a program of living that most people have no idea of. And after this long, it's just I'm a walking, living miracle.
So, Ed, do you know what this bill in California would do?
No, I haven't looked into it. I just saw it. So
it's pretty ambitious. It says, I mean, in terms of a step forward, it's not really medical, but it's not full recreational legalization, but it's actually very close. So it would make it legal for individuals 21 and over to cultivate, possess, obtain, transport, possess certain process, obtain, transport, possess certain psychedelic substances for personal use or social sharing, defined as the giving away or consensual administration of a controlled substance described in the section by a person 21 years of age or older to another person 21 years of age or older, not for financial gain, including in the context of group counseling, spiritual guidance, community-based healing, or related services. You know why they can't make it 18?
No.
Because if 18-year-olds could do drugs, none of them would join the military. This proposed exemption for criminal liability for social sharing would transform California's legal landscape with respect to psychedelics, legalizing the giving away of psychedelics, conduct which at this time could be prosecuted as a non-reducible felony punishable by imprisonment. Man, I have a hard time saying these statist words. Imprisonment pursuant to subdivision H, blah, 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 2, 3, or 4 years. So the substances covered that they're about to quasi-legalize would be LSD, psilocybin, psilocin, MDMA, DMT, ketamine, ibogaine, and mescaline. Just boom, done. That's it. And here's the crazy thing. We've talked about this with like cannabis, that the average price per ounce today is about $300. Officially 2019, CJ looked it up, it was 265 in stores, but it's up now. All right, Mike's got another attempt here. I'm pretty sure toad blinking doesn't work. You had to take the venom and vaporize it, as far as I know. All right.
Okay. The reason I put this comment up, Adam, the reason I put this comment up is because I am looking forward to taking dimethyltryptamine. Okay. I've done my research on this drug. I have the copy of Psychedelic Review that Mr. McKenna wrote on it specifically, and I understand that dimethyltryptamine is excreted from the parotid glands that are behind the eyes of Bufo alvarius, or the California river toad. Now, if California legalizes dimethyltryptamine the first spring after they legalize it, I am going to have a foray where I'm going to invite everybody out there in the whole world to come join me in on the border of California and Arizona, where the river toad, where it lives, right? Where they come out in the springtime in order to do their thing and proliferate. We're going to gather them up. We're going to massage the parotid glands behind the eyes. We're going to excrete the milky fluid from them. We're going to put it on petri dishes. We'll let it dry out, and once it evaporates, all the liquid evaporates, the crystals that are inside that are left is the pure dimethyltryptamine. Now, Mike Yuriko, toad licking does work, but it makes you sick because Bufo alvarius excretes bufotine out of its skin, which makes you sick. If you lick the toad on the head, you will get the DMT in your system, but you'll all get the bufotine in your system, and you'll get sick, and it's not a very good trip. So if you get the excretions and you let it dry and you extract the crystals from the excretions, that's the pure dimethyltryptamine, and you can use the drug. Now, McKenna says that it's just like LSD, only after ingesting it, within 90 minutes, you go up to your peak and you stay at the peak for approximately 3 to 4 hours, then drop back down to where you were before, and with no side effects, no hangover, no nothing. Now, we know that the synod rhythm of the human goes up and down and up and down. And when you get high and you push it up higher, when it comes down, it goes down almost as low as you went up. And it takes a while for that synodic rhythm to even back out again. And that's, the drug's effect wearing off. So, your turn.
Well, Ed, I don't think we have to go to Southern California to have a frog massage orgy to make this work. We could just extract it and or catch a few toads and have a harvesting, have a little farm going out here. Why not catch them and have a little colony at your place?
Because we don't have the right ecosystem.
It's
the California river toad. It lives in the California River. That's their ecosystem. They're there by the thousands. We're just gonna go and do our thing. Go get some and bring it home.
All right. Well, I'm down.
Wow.
I'm so there. Well, wait, Ed. One more important question here. Then, why?
Yeah.
Why wait until it's legal?
Everything that we do and say digitally is recorded and can and will be used against you in a court of law.
Good answer. Ed. All right. So moving on in our drug block here, we'll check back in with that in a few minutes after we get through the next couple blocks here. So in our drug block, but back to the LSD story. What is Iterable according to iterable.com? It is a cross-channel marketing platform that powers unified customer experience and empowers you to create, optimize, and measure every interaction across the entire customer journey. So interesting. That's why they're working with those big companies we mentioned earlier. All right, but we've talked about the good drugs. Let's talk about the bad drugs. I don't want to judge. If meth works for you, more power to you and your teeth, which may no longer be with you. Funky Pickle seized by Border Protection turned out to be $4 million worth of meth. Yes. And this is something we've seen increasing a lot. And I've pointed this out to a few people about, remember George Floyd? Remember the protests? Remember Kenosha? Remember that guy who was really methed out? Remember seeing all those stories about record meth busts last year? Remember that nothing in the world happens unless at least one of the two superpowers, US or China, want to make it happen or allow it to happen. So this is just like crack and cocaine was the flashpoint in the 80s and 90s in LA and inner cities, and the CIA was running those in. Now it's meth. Smackaholic, me and Adam have had good times smoking DMT in his basement. Miss you, bro. The cannon will be used against you. Did you miss that, Mr. Jewell? But the meth thing here, the crazy thing is like that there is a mechanism, in coke, of uppers, of a certain re-engineering of the brain for acceleration, similar to psychedelics, but with unhealthy side effects. Maybe, although you could argue that psychedelics at certain levels, well, it takes a lot, it can have unhealthy side effects. But with meth, there's an incredible ability to manipulate society with meth. In the era of COVID and during COVID season, if you get meth free and readily available all over the city, you think it's going to be that much easier to spark a protest or a riot? Oh, yeah. Customs and Border Protection officers recently seized more than $4 million worth of suspected methamphetamine at the FAR Reynosa International Bridge cargo facility, the agency said. Now, interesting thing about this in the markup for like highly illegal drugs that are concentrated like this, $4 million of methamphetamine, that might have been the street value. At the point of sale, imported wholesale, it might have been worth as little as 500,000. The actual cost of producing might have been as low as 100,000. I don't know about like. Oh, let me finish my point earlier about cannabis versus mushrooms and psychedelics, and even meth and coke. But the cannabis, the weeds, the marijuanas, cost a lot to produce. Yes, they do. And it's a certain undeniable amount of labor, strain curation, management of facilities, water, energy. I mean, unless you're doing it outdoors, even though there's energy involved, but you have full outdoor grows, that's not really going to be a thing. But indoors, there's sort of like baseline costs of like, even if you got all government liability out of the way, maximum efficiency, no taxes, et cetera, that $300 ounce of weed that you might buy at a dispensary, which that really costs? Probably about $30. Yeah. 90% of the cost of cannabis as we know it today is still a product of the inflation of the drug war, the regulation, and taxation certainly imposed on cannabis very, very heavily in some legal states. When it's illegal, the outsized cost is actually higher because it's the cost of the liability of moving it, getting it from production to customers, that makes it so expensive. And of course, what are people willing to pay? Well, in the case of mushrooms, right now on the street, an ounce might be $200-300. What's the actual marginal cost of producing an ounce of mushrooms? It's like less than $1 worth of cow shit. Yeah, and it's, I don't know, you're not growing in cow shit. I'm sure it's some kind of like scientific, media, whatever it is that you're growing the mushrooms in. Wow, it is like dark and rainy here all of a sudden. I'm looking out the windows going like, is my lighting okay? Wow, because this is going to be interesting. Let's get the bad weather out of the way before all of our friends come and visit this weekend. But yeah, so the price here on April 17th, CBP officer, with meth, also, like, eventually meth is like, the thing is, you're going to have to, I know it comes down to personal choice and responsibility. Shocking, right? At some point, all drugs are going to be so cheap that you are going to be able to engineer your brain however you want and live with that experience. We're on the verge of that. Like, to that extreme of like, oh yes, whatever drug you want that we know that's available today, you will have in clean, reliable, dose-controlled form for a negligible cost. Like, yeah, we're on the verge of that in terms of like 10, 20 years maybe. But you're going to have to decide for yourself when it's all cheap and available, what's good and what's bad, right? Heaven forbid. Healthy disrespect for authorities. Smoke weed every day. Is that my reminder? I got to slow down. One more meth story and we'll get back to the good drugs. Georgia man arrested after neighbor's dog finds bag containing meth. A dog finding a bag of methamphetamine set off a chain of events that led to the arrest and guilty plea of a Georgia man. Timothy Bernard Reese, 44, of Meigs, M-E-I-G-S, pleaded guilty to one count, possession with intent to distribute methamphetamine, before a judge on April 22nd. Mike, again, kratom is what people who are interested in opioids should try first. Much safer in every single way. Oh, absolutely. If you want to explore opioids, start with, excuse me, starting with kratom is not a bad idea. It's extremely mild. It doesn't seem to work for me much. but I can't say that I've done a few experiments with kratom, like using it in small doses and seeing does it make me feel healthier or sharper. Not really. Doesn't do much for pain, although I don't really have much pain that I deal with. Um, so what was I getting at? I shouldn't smoke more, probably. To the meth story. According to facts admitted by a recent court, a resident of Ocklawahnee, Thomas County, Georgia, called authorities on December 13, 2019 about a suspicious brown satchel found by his dog. The dog's owner reported that his dog had come home that day carrying the bag. When the owner opened the bag, he found what appeared to be large quantities of drugs and immediately called the Thomas County Sheriff's Office. The contents tested positive for 154.78 grams of methamphetamine. Lottery tickets were also found inside the bag. Is that who's fueling lottery tickets? Is it meth heads? You got to be a meth head to buy a lottery ticket. As Kyle Kinane would say, I'm shocked that people who believe they might win the lottery aren't more afraid of lightning. All right. Now to our war block, GTSC, Government Technology and Services Coalition, Homeland Security Today.us. That's hstoday.us. Yeah, it's one of those government insider websites that I forget where this came to us from. Headline from Bridget Johnson. CENTCOM commander, drones dropping explosives probably concerns me the most. The commander of U.S. Central Command said that the recent use of a weaponized drone to attack U.S. forces with explosives underscores one of the greatest concerns in the threat landscape. On April 14, a drone carried TNT near U.S. forces stationed at Erbil International Airport in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, according to the Kurdish Interior Ministry. The drone dropped the explosives, but no one was injured in the blast, the first known attack of its kind on U.S. forces in the area. But we also saw this in Mexico recently. Drug cartels fighting government forces there have been using drones to drop bombs as well. But then you're like, wait a second. Who's the king of dropping bombs from drones? Us, as in the United States federal government. Kind of funny that they're afraid of that. Meanwhile, related story from the Wall Street Journal of an intersection with high technology in the military. And by the way, think about the evolution of drone warfare is that it's really going to come down to, well, everybody can murder everybody whenever we feel like it, so let's not. Shall we? Because we're not going to do force-on-force wars anymore. If you can just make anybody on earth die at any moment, which the federal government of the United States has had in its power for some time, the idea of force-on-force wars is just kind of ridiculous. But the Wall Street Journal has this. The ease of tracking mobile phones of U.S. soldiers and hotspots. Apps show troop movements buried in data available for purchase, a major risk to national security. And there's this kind of more silly paranoia to justify government budgets. But I remember when I was in Iraq, like they told us, very careful, you can't discuss troop movements because it might give things away to the enemy. And it's like, any of our enemies, I mean, really, they're your enemies, government. They're not mine. Sophisticated enough to actually do something with this. They've already got spy planes and satellites, and they're not going, oh, let's track the U.S. troops through their cell phones. But if that doesn't scare you enough, let's be as scared of Russia because government tells us to. The Sun, Star Wars. Putin confirms successful test of new rocket designed to blast space missiles to bits. Vladimir Putin has staged a successful test of a new interceptor rocket that can destroy U.S. space missiles. A chilling video showed the launch of the anti-ballistic missile ABM defense system at the Saryshagin test site in Kazakhstan. Eventually, there's just going to be more incentive in defense than blowing up other people. But yeah, this is like missile defense, high tech, whatever, shooting other rockets out of the sky. I'm all for that. Let's all do that. Let's all make each other's weapons useless with effective defense, or even more so by getting along. But if that doesn't scare you enough about Russia, Bloomberg has this headline. Bloomberg, Putin's bid to ditch dollar picks up as exports move to euro. Now, if you don't know enough to be afraid of this, that's okay. If you know even more, you're probably not afraid of this because you realize that this is a good thing. But for most Americans, this headline kind of meaningless, right? Do they understand this? Do they care? No, not at all. But for those who do understand, most Americans who understand this go, oh my God, the strength of our team's fiat currency might go down because other people in the world don't want to use it. Yeah. Vladimir Putin's multi-year push to reduce Russia's exposure to the dollar, a major milestone as the share of exports sold in the U.S. currency fell below 50% for the first time. Most of the slump in dollar use came from Russia's trade with China, more than 3/4 of which is now conducted in euros, according to central bank data published late Monday. The common currency share in total exports jumped more than 10 points to 36%, data for the fourth quarter show. Now, if you know more and you understand this headline because you care about free market money, you care about freedom, you care about human prosperity and wealth and not being ripped off by fiat currencies, you go, okay, yeah, the big one's destabilizing. That's a good thing. 1054 seems like any new tech development. First thing the state and military industrial complex asks themselves is, can we strap bombs to it? Yeah, pretty much. Dogs, right? Remember, it's the robot dogs patrolling the Air Force Base. Don't worry, they'll be weaponized soon enough. Washington, D.C. Oh, but if that doesn't scare you enough, because this is our war block today, so it's all about being afraid. Thomson Reuters Foundation News, Washington, D.C. police server hacked. Russian speaking group claims responsibility. This is like the easiest false flag estate, if that's what it is. I'm not saying it is. The Washington, D.C. Police Department server has been hacked. U.S. media quoted it as saying in an attack that news agency AP reported had been claimed by a Russian-speaking ransomware group. The department said it was still assessing the extent of the unauthorized access. While we determine the full impact and continue to review activity, we have engaged the FBI to fully investigate this matter. Was that a good cop voice? The district's Metropolitan Police Department said in a statement cited late on Monday by outlets including AP and NBC News. And what's the result of this? Give us more money so we can fight this invisible threat. Speaking of invisible threats, if that all doesn't scare you enough, France 24 has this next headline. 10 years after death, bin Laden still mobilizes jihadists. Yeah. Bring back the boogeyman. A decade after he was hunted down and killed in Pakistan by U.S. Special Forces, Al-Qaeda founder Osama bin Laden retains the capacity to mobilize extremists, even in a polarized jihadist scene that has radically changed in the last years. I do not care to find out how government substantiates this particular fear-mongering. But let's check back in with Ed one more time before we get to our police state block and our grab bag. Because there's actually, is CJ backstage? Because for the next story, I really wanted to get CJ on too, if he's here. But Ed, any other jokes? Did I miss any comments? You're muted, I believe. You're such a good co-host. You're so muted. No? Frozen? Did we lose Ed's connection? He was looking pretty grainy there. All right. Well, let's just jump back into it then while he gets that. And according to Jim, CJ is not with us today. But the gatewaypundit.com, yeah, we're still talking about January 6th and not as a liberal talking point. Attorney for family of Ashley Babbitt announces family will file civil charges to vindicate her rights. The attorney for the family of Ashley Babbitt joined Newsmax TV on Monday morning to discuss the family's ongoing attempts to seek justice in the shooting death of their daughter, Ashley. Robert said he is handling the civil action that will be filed, adding, the family and I were disappointed in the Department of Justice decision on this, but my role really is to bring civil action in the way that vindicates her rights. In regards to the DOJ decision to protect the identity of the reckless killer, Robert said, we strongly disagree with the Justice Department's decision on this. We think the evidence is ample and would support criminal charges against the officer. This is one wrongful death by police that the liberal media has completely ignored. After all, she was only a Trump supporter. Good point. Up next, from the Daily Beast via MSN.com, secret court reveals FBI hunted for domestic terrorists without a warrant. The FBI, without any court order, sifted through the NSA's massive troves of foreign communications for information on American racially motivated violent extremists, a new declassified order from the Secret Surveillance Court detailed. Now, this might be a little conspiratorial in my theory to explain this, but they've even got an embarrassing picture with this story. But the idea that they're only looking for racially motivated violent extremists. Oh, they're not looking for dissidents like they always have in the past. They're not looking like COINTELPRO for the next Black Messiah. No, they're just looking for bad guys. Sometimes we bend the rules to look for bad guys, okay, people? Because they know that it's about to come out, that they're also looking, they've also been bending the rules to fuck with political opposition. And that's really the point of all of this. That maybe even this sort of embarrassing story is like, oh, but we do this for your own good. It's to cement that narrative before the next bad stuff comes out. Even though the FISA court warned the FBI in 2018 that its warrant-free queries known as backdoor searches were constitutionally alarming, the Bureau still conducted queries relevant to criminal investigations about, among other things, domestic terrorism involving racially motivated violent extremists, including, among other things, right? The court's Judge James E. Boasberg found what he referred to as apparent widespread violations of the querying standard. Shocking, right? Moose Girl, Adam needs a tie-dye tapestry for his backdrop like Ed has. No, Joey made me my sound foam. I like my sound foam. I feel like I'm in a soft, warm cocoon in my studio now. No. Well, we can put up curtains though for special events. It's one of the great things about the way the studio is being built out. So the apparent widespread violations of the querying standard. That's the euphemistic term the Bureau tends to use to denote white supremacist violence. On one occasion, an FBI analyst ran a multi-search term batch query on Americans in connection with predicated criminal investigations relating to domestic terrorism that returned 33 foreign surveillance results. And not only domestic terror, the FISA court recounts government acknowledgement that at least 40 FBI searches through NSA's warrantlessly collected data involved healthcare fraud, transnational organized crime, violent gangs, and public corruption and bribery. Yeah, just a setup. This is like, and you know what? I just watched FBI Declassified, and the season 1, episode 5 is the story of Ross Ulbricht. Yeah, you thought I was watching just regular old trash TV for no good reason, because these stories are not just regular trash TV. It's very pro-government propaganda. It's the FBI. The FBI is the thin blue line between you and the civilized world and chaos. Meanwhile, Insider.com, Colorado cop seen on surveillance video fist bumping while watching body cam footage of a 73-year-old woman's violent arrest. Yeah, bad cop porn is not just for those of us who have gotten carried away watching it in the past to look at the abuse of power, but bad cops jerk off to bad cop porn, basically. Yeah, and this is the 73-year-old woman, Daria Jalali and Austin Hopper, the officers. The woman whose name you're probably going to hear again, say her name, Karen Garner, is the 73-year-old who was picking flowers after shoplifting from Walmart because she was confused. Clearly an old woman with dementia. And yet, as the story says, Colorado cops were seen fist bumping and laughing. while watching the body cam footage. They're accused of breaking her arm and dislocating her shoulder. Attorneys say that she was handcuffed, not given medical attention for hours. And yeah, and when you see them, like they're celebrating the ready for the pop. Yeah, so they even knew. They were in this video speculating if she was senile and just didn't care. And this is not, murder of a young black man for no reason, but that almost makes it worse. That it's a 73-year-old woman with dementia picking flowers, and they dislocated her shoulder, broke her arm. And I've looked at some of the photos from her injuries. They're actually pretty significant, but it just makes it that much more offensive. Newsweek with this next story. This is a really important follow because I think we covered this. Driver shot in face by cop after 8-second exchange faces trial for assault. An Arizona man is due to stand trial on suspicion of aggravated assault following an incident which resulted in him being shot in the face by a police officer. Samuel Dank, and this is just like, I have to read this story. It is just one of these iconic ones, and you're going to know this, the Samuel Dank story. Samuel Dank was 24 years old when he was pulled over by a Peoria Police Department sergeant in the area of 83rd Avenue and West Cholla Street on March 27, 2019, pre-George Floyd. According to a police statement at the time, the officer later identified as Sergeant Matthew Miller pulled over Dank for an alleged traffic violation, who then reached for a gun on his lap. Police said that Dank ignored warnings not to reach for the gun on his lap, prompting Miller to fire at the suspect, striking him in the face. The footage shows there were around 8 seconds between the officer approaching Dank's vehicle and the gun being fired. That's crazy. The sergeant said he had no other option than to shoot, said a probable cause statement. He said he was in fear for his life when the driver reached down and grabbed the firearm after he told him not to grab it and put his hands on the wheel. Dank was arrested at his parents' home 5 days after he was sent to hospital for treatment of his non-life-threatening injuries and later charged with aggravated assault. However, lawyers and other legal experts suggest that newly obtained body cam footage of the incident reveals a different story. According to Jacques Blackwell, his attorney, you don't see Sam moving towards a weapon. What you see is Samuel Dank's hands move towards the steering wheel after he was commanded to do so. No shit. The body cam footage does not give a clear indication where Dank's hands are until a split second before Miller fires, where it is seen that Dank does not have a gun in his hands. It looks like his hands are being raised to put them on the steering wheel as ordered, not that he's reaching for his gun. No shit. Blackwell filed a lawsuit against Miller and the Peoria Police Department over the shooting, claiming the sergeant was negligent and used excessive force in the shooting. Blackwell also suggested that Miller may have fired his weapon by mistake due to his surprised reaction captured on the body cam footage. Sergeant Brandon Shevard, a spokesperson for the Peoria Police Department, denied the claim and added that Miller was cleared of any criminal wrongdoing by the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Oh, well, if the Maricopa County Attorney's Office said he didn't do anything wrong, he must not have done anything wrong. As Shevard said, the shooting was definitely not accidental. It was intentional. Sergeant Miller has been cleared by that shooting. Others are questioning why they decided to bring charges against Dank after being shot. If you're going to clear an officer using this evidence as body cam, there seems to me to be not enough evidence and then go after this guy for aggravated assault. Dank doesn't have to be charged because they just because they didn't charge the police officer. It could be a terrible accident. Dank is due to stand trial. Yeah, we're gonna be hearing more from this one, I'm sure. Next, we go to our crypto block, starting with an exciting story from Benzinga.com. Turkish ban may be Bitcoin's marketing boon. Yes. Bitcoin appears to be more interesting than ever to Turkish citizens after local regulators recently banned crypto transactions. What happened? Google Trends data shows that Google searches for Bitcoin in Turkey skyrocketed after Turkey's central bank on April 16 said it would ban the use of cryptocurrencies and crypto assets for purchases. Beginning April 30, the bank cited possible irreparable damage and transaction risks. Whoops, Streisand effect. A few days after the news of the ban spread, local searches for Bitcoin skyrocketed, and this month's searches are now expected to overtake the all-time high registered in February. You thought this would work? And you think the governments would be more coordinated in their response to Bitcoin? And just, hey, you should check out Bitcoin because it's about to be banned in Turkey. Take that away from pro-Bitcoin people, okay? A few days after the news of the ban spread, the move may have served to make more local dissidents and activists aware of the cryptocurrency and how it is used. Bitcoin's rise has partly stemmed from its reputation as a means to sidestep government control, and Turkey has taken an authoritarian turn under President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The country scored 4.48 out of 10 in the Economist's latest democracy index published in February. And now I'm like, okay, all right, we're looking at Turkey based on the Economist's latest democracy index. But they're not defining democracy as, majority rule forced on the minority as it actually works out to serve the oligopoly, but rather, rule by the people, to define it as a good thing. Speaking of good news in crypto, KMBC, 9ABC, Kansas City Chiefs tight end Sean Culkin becomes first NFL player to convert entire salary into Bitcoin. That's right. Sean Culkin, I fully believe, as he said, quote, I fully believe Bitcoin is the future of finance, and I want to prove that I have real skin in the game, not just trying to make a quick buck. That's pretty cool. Kansas City Chiefs tight end Sean Culkin announced Monday that he will take the entirety of his 2021 base salary, reportedly around $920,000, into Bitcoin. Now, it's some skin in the game. There's another one here, offensive tackle Russell Okung, who famously followed through on his declaration to pay me in Bitcoin, still takes half of his $13 million salary in fiat, but that's a lot more money going in. Yahoo reported Culkin will start stacking bi-weekly sats via Zapp's Strike, the same fiat to Bitcoin salary conversion service Okung uses. The Chiefs are aware of Culkin's arrangement, but he said his reserve contract is still denominated in dollars. And as he says, it's not wise for everyone, but considering he has a lot more regular income and net value than most Americans, I think he's safe in doing this. Now to our grab bag. Well, actually, before we get to our grab bag, let's check in with Ed again if his connection is up. Is Ed there? Ladies and gentlemen, co-host Ed Vallejo. All right, connection back.
Can you hear me?
Lima Charlie.
All right. Got you looking chicken on the funky monkey. Ricky Tiki Tack. How you hear me back?
Yeah. Okay. So, any jokes or comments I've missed so far?
No, they quit making quips and they're pretty much going with what you're talking about.
No, you're supposed to make dumb jokes about what I'm talking about. It makes the show that much more fun to watch live.
Yeah.
All right. It's funny. There were, oh, wow. I wonder if this is real. Just got this note in the Producers Club. Did you see this? It's just a Facebook post, but it says ancient Anasazi petroglyphs were vandalized over the weekend. Vandals wrote, "Eat ass white power," and drew an ejaculating penis over the birthing scene.
Some weird people in this world, man.
Why aren't these things oh, they are guarded, aren't they? We trust government to protect these things. That's where we screwed up. All right, well, let's get into our grab bag. Our next story is actually pretty scary. And I suppose you'll appreciate this as someone you're outside the mosquito zone where you are,
I believe so, and I'm so glad because they like me.
right? All right. Daily Mail has this headline, and this is actually a follow-up on a story we covered, I think, like months ago. And I thought this wasn't going to happen, but Florida residents claim pest control trial that will release up to 1 billion genetically engineered mosquitoes in the Keys to reduce species carrying diseases is terrorism. Trials of the first ever U.S. release of genetically engineered being this week. Florida has been chosen due to its influx of Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. Those are the Africanized mosquitoes because they're from Egypt, right? No, this is from Brazil. This species, which comes from Brazil, carries Zika and other diseases. Zika, that sounds scary. The modified mosquitoes that's so scary that I might let the government fuck with nature. Just kidding. This ensures female offspring do not survive the next generation. However, residents are furious about the live experiments. Some are saying the release of up to 1 billion is an act of terrorism. Is this terrorism, Ed?
Yeah, it ranks up there. You know, I saw something not too long ago that they were conjecturing a way to put the vaccine or mRNA, whatever it is, into mosquitoes so that the mosquitoes can bite people and inject them.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. So this is specifically an agency of the Florida government, the Florida Keys Mosquito Control District. I wonder who they're accountable to. And Oxitec, a British biotech company, starting the first ever U.S. release of genetically engineered mosquitoes, which will see up to 1 billion over a 2-year period. Now, Floridians are complaining to the EPA, saying that this is a kind of terrorism. And the trial is set to begin this week. First phase, releasing up to 144,000 mosquitoes over the next 12 weeks. And it's sort of like it could be one. You take one if that's the one that dominates. But 144,000 is certainly a chance to give the this new kind of mosquito a chance in competing. The terrorism. It's like we want you to be afraid of some kind of virus in order to support this. But is this the terrorism? I mean, what's the political manipulation? I don't know if this is. I think terrorism is the wrong word. Maybe the idea with this story is to demonize people who are opposing this. How dare you suggest that your good, wise government overlords shouldn't release 1 billion genetically engineered mosquitoes? You must be those freaks that see terrorism everywhere.
Well, did you see there at the beginning of the article, they called them Frankenskitos. Okay,
Yeah.
that terrorizes me right there.
Well, be afraid of, but that's not what you're supposed to be afraid of here. Right? I mean, you're supposed to be afraid of the diseases that the Brazilian mosquitoes. Those are the ones you should be afraid of, and these are the ones who are going to save you from them.
Right. No. I don't agree with any of it. Any of it. They should leave things alone.
Well, you heard the good news that Bill Gates' plan to put chalk in the atmosphere has at least been tabled by significant scientific establishment opposition. So how do they get away with this? 1 billion mosquitoes? Crazy. All right, Ed, we're going to go to the next story. We got a few more to run through here. We'll check back in before we get to the good news. PBS.org, definitely not good news. Chemicals in plastic electronics are lowering fertility in men and women. Just one more such story. Another kind of quick gotta know, studyfinds.org, night shift does not help smartphone users sleep better, study reveals. And I've played with this, didn't seem like it was having any effect. Stop playing with it. Does staring into a smartphone screen not only hurt your eyes, but then keep you up all night? that pesky blue light digital screens emit can be a real problem for human health, which led tech giants to create Night Shift. Although this feature is supposed to help users sleep better, a new study finds that's not the case. Researchers from Brigham Young University say sleep quality among smartphone users is no different with or without night sight on. Good to know. Now, for those of us in CalExit in the California Congress looking for California to break off and become an independent country, this is very exciting news. Just to the general destabilization of the Democrat Party regime there. Wall Street Journal has this headline: California Governor Gavin Newsom near certain to face recall election. And they're not going to mention that our favorite Republican libertarian Nick Wildstar is running in this, whatever the next election is for California governor, regardless. But you will hear from the mainstream media that Caitlyn Jenner is going to be one of the potential running competitors, hoping to follow in the footsteps of Arnold Schwarzenegger when Governor Gray Davis was recalled, paving the way for him to take the office. Some 1.63 million people have signed petitions to recall the Democrat, making an election likely later this year. That's right. According to figures released Monday by California Secretary of State, election officials have verified 1.63 million signatures on the recall petition, well above the 1.496 million threshold to place a recall on the ballot. Mr. Newsom has been under fire from conservatives, but that's not just it. For closing, because if it was just conservatives, you could write them off in California. For closing large segments of the state's economy in response to the coronavirus pandemic, the Democrat acknowledged last month that recall proponents will likely succeed in forcing a vote to remove him. A spokesman for the governor didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. Now, here we go. Candidates are lining up on Friday. Transgender rights activist and Olympic gold medalist Caitlyn Jenner entered the race as a Republican. Ms. Jenner, who has never before run for public office, criticized the governor's lockdown orders during the pandemic in a statement and called herself a proven winner and the only outsider who could put an end to Gavin Newsom's disastrous time as governor. Who else? Republican establishment. We got to mention them. Former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer, former GOP Congressman Doug Ose, and businessman John Cox, who lost to Mr. Newsom by more than 20 points in 2018, or about 3 million votes out of nearly 12.5 million cast. That gives you a sense of, 20 points, that's a 60-40 loss at best. And that's how irrelevant the Republican Party is in California. But give them someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, everybody's hoping to be that guy. The bigger delay, or the bigger challenge here, however, is here's a big difference. And here's what sets up the challenge. When they recalled Gray Davis in 2003, Davis had an approval around 26%. Newsom's 53%. I don't know how much I believe that, but relatively high compared to Davis. So here's the dilemma for Democrats. Do they run someone against Newsom in this open race or not? California's has some interesting statewide political dynamics. Smagaholic, Jenner as governor would be hilarious. That's right. If you thought the governor was entertaining, let's see Governor Jenner. Just to shake things up, I guess she would have my second vote after Nick Wildstar, just for that. Mike Freeman, would Caitlyn's campaign commercials contain footage of the 76th Olympics? No, but they would include footage of him at the time causing a fatal car accident through negligent driving and seemingly coming away from that episode unscathed in every way. But the challenge here is that if Democrats go into this recall saying we're going to stay behind Newsom all the way, then they don't have an alternative if something bad happens that would from all of these other candidates saying, they're going against him. Because the way it works, as I understand it, on the recall ballots, you get to say, do you vote to recall Newsom or not? Yes or no. And if you vote yes to replace him, you get to vote for someone to replace him. If the Democrats run a strong candidate in the recall effort, it's going to split that vote. Because there's some people who say, like, yes, I'm a Democrat, let's hang on to Newsom. There's some people who say, I'm a Democrat, but I want to see someone new. And if that splits the vote, we could get another very interesting outcome from this in California. Remember, the bigger picture here is that in this conspiracy of conspiracies of COVID, lots of government officials have sought to take advantage of this to serve their own interests. A lot of them have gotten carried away in doing so, like Cuomo and Newsom, who are now being put forth as sacrificial lambs by the establishment. Now, sacrificial lamb in this case might be you're going to have to go through a recall, but we're going to make sure you win it. Patrick Lewis, did Monsanto create Caitlyn Jenner? Perhaps unintentionally. They certainly contributed. AFP at Yahoo Finance, now fun story. New York startup aims to leave a mark with ephemeral tattoos. That's right. Tattoos that fully disappear as opposed to fade or partially disappear. And they got products approved by the US FDA. And they are looking to make tattoos that last, let's see, was it 9 to 15 months? I think, yeah. So it's 9 and 15 months after the same inking process as a conventional tube. Well, same inking process means it's going to hurt like a motherfucker, and it's not going to be permanent. I don't know about that, but it's worth knowing that, yes, there might be people out there with these semi-permanent tattoos. Good news, I almost wanted to save until Friday from Eater.com. Beep, beep. Domino's is testing a self-driving delivery car. Customers in Houston could receive their pizza via an autonomous vehicle made by Silicon Valley robotics company Nuro. Is it an autonomous vehicle? I think it's a pizza drone. Pizza drones are here. They're on the ground. They're getting out there. They're so much more efficient than pizza boys. This is very cool. Very, very cool. You're about to, like, this is going to be a thing. Like, on the road, you're going to see pizza drones driving around. Fucking far out movie shit. Futuristic. Now coming to reality. And that's it for headlines. So let's get Ed back on stage here before we get to the good news. We've got some good World War II Nazis. We do have some serious good news today. Ed, any other comments? What's on your mind? Final thoughts? Contest winner, please. You're still muted. You're too good. Too responsible. Still muted.
I'm sorry. 1054 is our winner today for his Falling Rocks comment. Everybody else's comment that was good is already in the club. So 1054, you're today's winner.
All right. Thank you very much. And email Jim@thefreedomline.com to claim your prize and get into the Producers Club. Man, we had a lot of fun talking about LSD earlier. Now but I'm not craving it. Funny how that works. It's not addictive, is it?
No, but the way the olfactory sense works is when you come in contact with something, it keeps a little portion of it in your olfactory system so that you can recognize it. Okay.
Right.
If you have taken LSD at some point in your life, there is a small portion of it stored in your system. If you think about it really hard, you think about what happened in the last time you did it, and you can actually, my back of my throat starts to get a little cottony, and I can feel a little bit because my sense memory is pulling it out, and it's affecting me just slightly. You can do it. I'm serious.
What if you just make out with someone who did LSD?
No, doesn't work. Not unless they still got it fresh in them. I remember they used to have.
I'm trying to make more love happen. I'm trying to help somebody get away with something here. Kiss me. I've done LSD.
I remember there used to be a 2-person hit that had like a sticker, or it was one person licked it and the other person put it on their arm, and left it there for a second and then peeled it off, and it was like a tattoo, and they both got off. I remember that. That was a long time ago.
Back when, well, it was in higher demand. What was it? I mean, is demand? I don't know. How old are you, Ed?
I was born in 1958, the International Geophysical Year. That was the year that we finished mapping the Earth.
So do you remember, and are you old enough to remember an earlier surge in market demand for LSD than what we're experiencing right now?
An earlier surge.
Like around the 60s. I know you were barely, you turned 12, 1970-ish then, right?
It's always been out there, and it's always floated around in the head community. But just recently, I'd say starting somewhere in the 90s, it started to bleed over into the tech industry, and they started to realize that they could use the microdosing for inspiration because they weren't being very creative.
All right. Well, any other thoughts today, Ed? Any other practical drug advice?
Whatever happened to barrel acid, man? I haven't seen that in a long time. It was mostly used to be mescaline, was orange barrel or a purple barrel. It was more mescaline than acid, but I haven't seen that in a long time. I haven't seen window pane in a while. Very little blotter acid. Most of the things I've seen lately look almost plasticine. I don't know. Strange.
All right, well, with that, let's get producer Jim up on screen here to smoke weed and sign off with Ed today, shall we?
Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day.
Ed's with us in spirit, right, Ed?
Right.
All right, Jim. Any ombudsman notes, or you want to take us home with the promos?
Take us home with the promos here. T.me/Adam versus the man. That's our public Telegram channel, Telegram message app. If you're not on it, catch the fuck up, get up with the times, download that shit, and then connect to that as your first group. And then as your second group, be cool like, who was it? I'm sorry, I don't want to misquote it. Was it 1054? Give me a thumbs up, Ed. I think it was. Yeah, 1054 is our new winner, who's going to email me and become a Producers Club member. You know what's cool is what he can do now that he's a Producers Club member because he won access. He can go to adamversustheman.com. He can shop the shop, and anything he purchases there is going to be 15% off and free shipping for him. Anything with the Freedom logo, the Adam vs. Man Show logo, all kinds of crap on there. Check it out. Get your discount. If you want to be cool like him, you can go to Patreon. $10 a month will make you a better patron. That's going to get you access to the private Producers Club I just mentioned and get you all the goodies, the 15% off and free shipping at the shop. Cigar Federation, you can also get a discount there on your favorite cigars using promo code Adam10. That'll get you 10% off of anything you order there. So definitely take advantage of that. We're looking for you to visit Instagram. Go for a search at the Garden of Freedom, and you'll see all the pictures and videos that Adam has of life up there in Gardenia. So definitely keep up with that. The crypto6.com, people need your help. The Bitcoin church that I'm sure you heard about got raided. You can visit the crypto6.com and learn all about that, and even donate through cryptocurrencies on these QR codes. You can do it right now, actually, right from your screen. You can just point your phone right at these codes while they're on your screen and do your donating without even going to the website. But then after that, go to the crypto6.com anyways, just to check it out. And then lastly, go to gogreenenergyonline.com. Awesome website from our friend, Mr. Nygaard. You can educate yourself all about solar power, micro wind power, zero energy homes, the place you need to go if you're trying to do it yourself and get yourself off grid or self-sustained. Visit gogreenenergyonline.com. Boom.
All right. And with that, we go to goodnewsnetwork.org for good news in history. April 27, 78 years ago today, Witold Pilecki, That's probably not how you say that. A Polish cavalry officer and Nazi resistance leader escaped from Auschwitz after having voluntarily been imprisoned there to gain information about the Holocaust. During World War II, he infiltrated the concentration camp and organized a resistance movement inside that eventually included hundreds of inmates, while secretly drawing up reports detailing German atrocities that were smuggled out to the Western Allies. Now, a lot of that, and I don't mean to, I got a lot of mixed feelings about this particular story on this good day in history. There is so much propaganda and spin on both sides. A story like this, it's hard to tell how much is real. After escaping Auschwitz, Pilecki fought in the Warsaw Uprising, and after the communist takeover of Poland, he wrote Witold's report on the Auschwitz concentration camp, anticipating that he would be killed by Poland's new rulers, which he was, and the story remaining mostly unknown for several decades. Poland's chief rabbi, Michael Shudrick, wrote the foreword to a 2012 translation of Pilecki's report. When God created the human being, God had in mind that we should all be like Captain Witold Pilecki. And historian Norman Davies added, if there was an Allied hero who deserved to be remembered and celebrated, this was a person with few peers. On this day in 1749, the first performance of Handel's fireworks music in Green Park, London. On this day in 1960, Togo, not Toto, Togo gained independence. On this day in 1961, Sierra Leone is granted its independence from the UK. On this day in 1983, baseball pitcher Nolan Ryan, by the way, was my childhood hero. I had a signed picture from him, broke a 55-year-old MLB record by striking out the 3,509th batter of his career, and the right-handed hurler would go on to accumulate a whopping 5,714 strikeouts, 800 more than the next closest pitcher on the list, Randy Johnson. On this day in 1992, the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, comprising Serbia and Montenegro, was established. On this day, also in 1992, Russia and 12 other former Soviet republics won entry into the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. On this day in 2006, construction began on the 1776-foot-high Freedom Tower, set to be the tallest tower in New York City on the World Trade Center site. And we'll get into some entertainment news since we're a little early today, but there are some good ones. At least this 65 years ago today, Rocky Marciano retired as undefeated boxing champ at age 32, becoming the only person to hold the heavyweight title without a tie or defeat during his entire career. Born to Italian immigrants in Brockton, Massachusetts, he worked out as a youth on homemade weightlifting equipment at home and dropped out of school in the 10th grade. While in the Army, he won the 1946 Amateur Armed Forces Boxing Tournament, known for his relentless fighting style, stamina, and an iron chin. Marciano has been ranked by many boxing historians as one of the best heavyweight boxers of all time. His knockout percentage of 87.75 is one of the highest in heavyweight history. Marciano was the inspiration for the title character Rocky Balboa from Sylvester Stallone's Rocky film and book series. The character Rocky dreams of becoming like his idol, Rocky Marciano, and is given a boxing glove necklace made from a cufflink given to him by his trainer Mickey, who had received it from Marciano. And on this day, 211 years ago today, Beethoven composed one of his most popular compositions, the famous piano piece, Für Elise, undiscovered until 40 years after the composer's death. Yeah, that's the thing. The Bagatelle in A minor is commonly performed by young piano students. Schroeder also played it in the Peanuts TV special, A Charlie Brown Christmas. So, with that, we'll end just a little bit early today and remind you to remember that according to 1054, government is so crazy, they put up signs trying to convince you that falling rocks. And with that, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.